Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Mordred's Community Clash Politics Talk. We're bringing on a co-host this week. We got Brother Zale. Brother Zale, say hello.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And Zale, for our listeners, why don't you give them a little background on who you're playing this session and anything you'd like to share?
I am playing what has turned out to be the mighty Munster, Ireland, and I've had a very lucky, I think overall it's been lucky for me, a very lucky game so far, and I think that all spawns out of the fact that Mindboy unfortunately just wasn't there for a session,
And Mindboy is
and
the
then
English
also
player.
the English player, that's correct, and also the admins or the mods saying that no friendly player vassalization. Because the original deal that Mindboy and I had worked out prior to the game start was I would be a March of England, but the mods nixed that, and it kind of really backfired for England, unfortunately, because Mindboy's a good player in my opinion. You know.
And who have you aligned yourself with this season of the Community Clash?
Yeah, so my first ally was Sweden, but Striker unfortunately couldn't get around, and then I very fortuitously was able to get an alliance with the Iberian powers. So we kind of formed NATO, that sort of thing.
And this past session in particular was a relatively strong one for Munster. Obviously, you had taken some centers of trade in the previous one, but it seems like the final nail has been put in England's coffin. Can you walk us through what happened between Munster, England, France, Castile, etc. this past week?
Certainly. So the first thing that happened was I was kind of fishing for deals that would kind of get a sort of peaceful resolution or something, and I couldn't find any that I was willing to stomach. A lot of the deals that I were offered was basically I would have to give England back everything I took and just be content to sit in Ireland, or else they'll remove me, which is kind of the deal I had in the first place. I had asked for rather in the first place and been told by England no. So there wasn't really anything working on that front. And Castile, Portugal, and I were confident that we could beat France and England again. But as time kind of ticked on, it seemed like Mindboy did an amazing job at Diplo. So we were more and more worried. Like Naples joined, the Swiss were already there, Brunswick joined. They had that deal with Austria, which is what really concerned me the most. And that's what led me to go seek out the Ottomans, actually.
And as we mentioned, looks like England's done now. This matter may be settled. Is the alliance between yourself and Iberia one that's going to stay, or as a pirate, once you've completed your domination of the Isles, you'll be relatively secure? Are you looking to mix things up?
So I'm not planning on taking any land on continental Europe, and I don't make a habit of breaking treaties. So unless Iberia really wants me to break with them, I'm not planning to break with them. No.
So, will we see Munster troops setting foot on mainland England to defend Castile?
Yeah, I will absolutely be marching to their defense as needs be. I have no qualms about sending troops to mainland. I'm just not going to take any territory. So.
And as we shift and take a look at Portugal, Castile, obviously traditionally in single player, colonial nations, England, colonial nation, France sometimes as well. Portugal seems to be the only one in the New World right now. Are the Irish going to make a immigration to North America?
Well, my original plan had been to go over there to spawn a colonial nation for my the Irish mission, and then hopefully my everyone's friend Fizzbiscuit was going to join, and I was going to release the colonial nation so he had someone to farm and play as. But as time wears on, I'm not sure that's going to be viable, especially if we do end up getting like a Fuhrer in Norway or Denmark. He might go colonial, and he's not necessarily going to be my friend, so we'll have to see how that goes.
And I know some ruffled feathers occurred at the end of last session in the war. The Ottomans came in. There was some geopolitical stuff going on there. Do you expect the Turks to be present in Europe moving forward, or was that a one-time thing to overcome the final hurdle with England?
Um, so the primary reason that I think the Ottomans were willing to join that war was because of Val's decision in the previous wars to help France, and I think that the Ottomans were and are under the impression that France is going to continue to the France Mamluk thing is going to continue to be a thing, which is seems to be the case given that there's French condottieri in Austria right now, so who's allied, of course, with the Mamluks. So I think after I botched that peace deal, wasn't as targeted towards France as it should have been, which of course is my bad, as we discussed prior to the video starting. I think that the Ottomans are not going to be. Maybe if Castile talked with them and they were able to form an alliance there, but the Ottomans already have a great power alliance in the Timurids, and I think for them that would be the smart choice. You sign a non-aggression pact with Castile. You say, okay, Castile, you get Tunis, I get Alexandria, and we go our separate ways. No harm, no foul, whatever, but we're done. I think that'd be the smart play for Ottomans. Um, I'm not going to beg him to come back to Europe. I don't think it's necessary anymore because he's already going to be fighting Austria. So, supposedly, right? So, I don't necessarily think that was my main concern. That's why I went and reached out to the Ottomans. Is like, Austria is a bit much for Iberia and me to handle, but we've proven time and again we can handle the sort of other allies that England and France has.
And when we look at trade, which is a primary source of income late game, the English Channel, due to the conflict between Western Europe, seems to be a little bit behind. There's not a lot of trade coming in from the New World due to the lack of colonials, like we mentioned. Do you think that we'll see a quick resurgence of trade in the English Channel moving forward, or is this game just a little bit different than previous multiplayers?
If I have my way, this the English Channel is going to stay low, um, which seems weird, I'm sure, to a lot of people that might watch this. But one of the things that I said I was going to do is I was going to form Ireland, and I wasn't going to form Great Britain. And one of the things that I promised to Castile and Portugal originally is that me taking over them, helping me, means that they don't have a Great Britain trade rival, right? And like I said, I don't make a habit of breaking my treaties, so if possible, I'm going to make sure that it kind of stays low. I'll get my money through raiding, and I'll get my money through like um, helping push trade. If I do go colonial, I'll help push trade towards Sevilla instead of the English Channel. Um, and especially since we have a Lubeck gone now, that I imagine he'll get eaten up pretty soon. So that money is just going to stay there because if Brandenburg takes it, that's more. If Brunswick takes it, that's even just more trade power keeping it there, away from me and away from Holland. So
Yeah, with the vacuum from Lubeck, it definitely presents an interesting situation between Brunswick and Brandenburg. Brandenburg, obviously, is slightly more isolated from a political perspective, maybe a little bit more experienced as a player. Brunswick has aligned themselves with, I would say, the majority of mainland Europe, the HRE folks, and France. So it'll be interesting to see if Brandenburg is able to continue to expand, or if they're going to find themselves a little bit isolated moving forward here.
yeah, and I do have a few comments on the topic. So for starters, Kaiser Brandenburg broke his alliance with me, which I wasn't expecting. So he might have a little trick or three up his sleeve in this upcoming session.
But he was in the war, correct?
Yes, he was. He was in the war, and he got stuff from Brunswick, which I was able to piece Brunswick out for quite a bit. Honestly, I think of all the people in that war, Brunswick got hit the hardest, which is unfortunate for him, but fortunate for Brandenburg. Maybe they'll be able to come to terms now that there's no Lubeck. They can maybe work together more. I don't know, but I do know that Poland is not letting Brandenburg have Prussia.
It's a
So the
smart
fact that
play.
the two are aligned, it's going to be kind of interesting to see, if that persists or not. But yes, I do know for a fact that as of now, the mini Russia Prussia, as I like to call Poland, he's going to be. I imagine we're going to see that sort of Ruthenia into Prussia thing that guy planned.
Yeah, it looks like
from
he's
him.
already started making the cultural conversion into
That could be.
Ruthenian.
That could have been that guy. It's hard to say who started that.
That's true, but he is getting
Um,
there.
yes,
It'll be an
yes,
interesting tag. It's a pretty strong one. You see it in some other multiplayers. Traditionally on this server, Poland typically goes the Commonwealth route, but Ruthenia actually has stronger ideas. So it'll be
yeah,
interesting to see late game Ruthenia and what sort of impact that has on Eastern Europe.
yeah. And I think what'll actually happen is he'll form Ruthenia to get the government, but he'll keep the Polish um, ideas,
Yeah,
and then he'll swap over the Polish ideas for the Prussian when he forms that. If he forms that, he might just stay Ruthenia. I don't know. They
yeah.
have a pretty cool
Ruthenia
flag, so he might
obviously
do that.
gets the Tsardom government type, which is the same as the Russian government type. So combine that with the fact that he's Orthodox, and you make a pretty strong military power. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
he could be a Orthodox Prussian with the Tsardom government, which would give him both the quality and the quantity um, and the manpower that I think will be unmatched. Maybe a Hindu Nepal, but there's no player there, so
Yeah. So speaking of that, we'll pivot now. The Middle East saw a little bit more action, but probably less than most folks were expecting. The Ottomans took a little bit more land back from the Mamelukes, um, recarving portions of Anatolia for themselves and their vassals. Not too bad of a session for Mamelukes, all things considered. Only one war. Um, they've got a little bit of debt still, but their army's healthy. Are the Mamelukes done? Is there a chance that they can Diplo their way out of this? What's your thoughts?
I think that no, they're not done. I think that they do have a chance. I wouldn't say it's a very good chance, but they have a real chance. And the first thing that I would do is where his army's at right now, which I maybe shouldn't talk about, but I would move them. I just saw where they are. You need to get them out of there, and you need to start. You fix your trade a little. You gotta be pushing and collecting only in Alexandria. But I think the biggest thing that Mamluks should do is look at France. You say, France, you're allied to Sweden. You don't need that alliance slot taken, right? Sweden's isolated. He's protected by the emperor on all sides except for like Venice and Constance.
Switzerland,
Um,
you mean, correct?
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Switzerland, right?
Yep, no
He has
problem.
a condot. He has the highest condot limit in the game right now, which is 40, and that's just for being Switzerland. The government type gives you plus 50% manpower, merc manpower, and then his national ideas give him another 50%, which is what determines the condot limit now. It used to be available mercenaries, now it's mercenary manpower. Um, so you tell France, look, 21,000 troops of condottieri isn't going to do anything. Like that, we proved that in the previous war, where the Ottomans just blazed through all of North Germany and killed all their 20 stacks one by one. You can't beat the Ottomans with quality right now, but you can beat them with quantity. And so what France ought to do, because they don't need that, Switzerland can provide those condottieri whether they're allied or not. France should drop that alliance and ally the Mamluks directly, and then the Mamluks should bring their troops over to Austria. And you pray that Austria is still pissed off at the Ottomans. The Ottomans are still willing to backstab Austria and continue this. And then, once you have France and Austria and the Mamluks in Austrian land, you have a chance. You have a significant chance. You also, of course, you want to ally. If I were you, I'd drop with one of your other people. You ally Naples for the navy, and then hopefully you can get like all of Greece sieged out. And meanwhile, while that's happening, the Ottomans and the Timurids are dying to your forts here in the Middle East. Um, and of course, you take max loans before you leave your homeland, so when it gets sieged out, you don't instantly bankrupt. But I think that's if they don't do that, if the French don't directly ally them and they just do the condot spam that they're doing, it's not going to work. I think they're just going to die. Um, 60,000 Austrians plus another 60,000 isn't enough to beat the Ottoman 114. It just isn't. But if you look at the France whole 60k right now, that might be enough. But of course, that puts France in the position of actually being in the war, and then theoretically, losing all his manpower, and then also having to fight Castile again.
Yeah, so that's
Assuming he,
a interesting question. Could you see Castile allowing France to counter the Ottomans, or do you think that France can't risk exposing themselves to that degree?
um, I mean, I'm sure Castile, my friend Castile and I would be happy to have France burn their manpower in the Middle East, but I don't. I certainly would recommend not doing that to him. Ottomans helped us out too much, and after that peace deal, where he was expecting Ottomans expecting more damage to France, and it didn't happen. And if we kind of are seen allowing France to work against the Ottomans, that's a little scummy. If I was the Ottomans, I'd be like, whoa, 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 hold on, like hold the phone. I came over here and died for you guys, and now you're helping them to kill me. Like, come on.
And we'll pivot a little bit now. Muscovy, the big bear in the north, 163 max manpower, force limit well over 100. Only a single blue flame for Muscovy against Lithuania in the Novgorod War, which they quickly white pieced them out as soon as Poland declared. When is Muscovy's blue flame going to light up again? And who is going to be the target?
Um, I think what we're going to see from Muscovy is another quiet, air quotes, quiet session. He's undisputedly the king of Europe right now. He's the strongest, and unlike the Ottomans, who I think has the quality edge right now, which is, if I was the Ottomans, by the way, keep your alliance with Timurids and then have Georgia, ally Georgia, and push north into Muscovy. You got to do it now, or it's going to be too late. But Muscovy, he just has a quiet session. He takes Sweden, he takes Norway if possible, um, the Livonian Order, and he just gets stronger. I think we'll see, not this upcoming session, but the session after. I think we'll see probably Blue Flames. Unless you plan to attack him in where you're at.
I wish I could.
Right. That's the problem. Everyone around him's like, "Ooh, he's a little too big already," and it's just gonna get worse. The Ottomans kind of stagnate unless they can push down into Ethiopia.
Oh, apparently I
Now
can
they're
match him
gonna.
for force limit, but I don't know if you've seen my economy's a little bit. It's hurting.
No, I haven't gotten that far.
Yeah, I'm about half the size of Muscovy's economy. Manpower, I'm catching up, but I'm not there. So.
Oh man, yeah, you have almost a me level of loans right now. Minus 8.6 with 400 in debt.
Oh
That's
yeah.
pretty solid. 8.3 in state maintenance, my dude.
You gotta lower that
Oh
autonomy.
man, that's
You gotta lower the
that's
autonomy. I'm having issues. My economy, my government reform's going extremely slow. So yeah.
yeah. But what about you and Manchu? You guys have been relatively quiet over here,
We're buddies.
chasing that
We're buddies.
Longshang mandate, right?
Yeah, we've been playing single player. So yeah, a little bit on that. We finally cornered the mandate. It traveled through Ming, through Yu, into Divet, into Longshang now. We have Ayataya, our buddy, at war with Longshang and Manchu as well. So two wars will be able to full annex and destroy the mandate and look towards tag swapping into Yuan pretty shortly here. There's been Oirat expansion into India. I took a Nepalese prince as a march, so
Yeah.
can't say that
And
word, but
and speaking of that, I was curious if a player got put in Jaunpur or like Kathmandu, right? Would you be willing to give up that march and let someone form a Nepal, or would you be willing to not expand into the lowlands into Jaunpur, or do you think you're gonna have like a pretty big conflict? That's a four-player boundary zone right there. So what do
I
you think's
have
happening there?
no issue releasing my march or allowing a Jaunpur player. I will say that publicly. I had no issue with that. It's a challenging spot to put someone because of how strong Timurids is in Bahmanis. Jaunpur would have to either play a very conciliatory role and just give in to whatever demands or align themselves extremely closely with myself. But I have no issues with that. Gujarat is
Yeah,
also an option. So, Mindboy, if you're listening, Gujarat, Jaunpur, valid choices. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
If for my money's worth, I'd say if you go with the Gujarat option, then that's pretty good. Your main people are going to have to be probably fighting against the pirates. Um, I guess, you could expand into Oman, but I think Oman and Timmy are still going strong.
So I believe
So
Oman actually pivoted and are now allied with both the Ottomans and Timurids. Okay,
yes, yes.
and
So
Kilwa.
I do have some insider information there, but I can't share that.
Yeah,
But
we try not
yes,
to
he is
reveal
allied with
insider on this
both.
show. We
Yeah,
respect their
he's
privacy.
uh he's allied with both the Ottomans and the Timurids. So I think I'm not sure if those will stay actually. Now that I think about it, but
It is
they
interesting
are,
though.
I think, legit. We should probably see Oman, just in general. Not saying any insider information, but just in general, Oman should be expanding into Ethiopia and Mamluks. I think it's Ethiopia is going to be in an interesting position because if I was Songhai, I would make a deal with Portugal, which I believe he's done, and I would push west into Ethiopia. If I was the Mamluks, you pray that what I said before happens, where you get France in, and then after the war, you lose as little as possible. If you win, awesome, and then you push into Ethiopia. Oman, push into Ethiopia. Kilwa, push into Ethiopia. It's going to be interesting because you got four different guys trying to get into that gold pot there. So
Yeah, definitely an interesting region to watch. I think as Europe has already reached a boiling point, Africa is approaching it, and this area right here, we have Muscovy, Timurid, and Oirat about to have a three-player nation border. It's gonna be spicy.
yeah, yeah, and there's already Georgia, like, oh, Georgia, sweet Georgia, right? You got the Ottomans, the Timurids, the Muscovites, and the Polish all bordering you. That's going to be an interesting diplomatic. I think next session is going to be very important for Georgia diplomatically.
Yeah, I just want to recognize the strong play by Just Dutch, new to the server, unknown quantity coming in, puts himself in a difficult start, to say the least. We had an Ottomans player, we had a Mamelukes player, we had a Timurids, we had a Poland, we had a Muscovy, and he's carved out a little niche for himself. I'm pretty impressed that he's continuing to chug along and starting to grow. Economy's not bad. Force limit's getting there. Manpower pool is good. Yeah, Georgia's doing just fine. They can throw a little
If
weight
I,
around in one of these wars.
yeah, if I was him, you'd have to this next session. I think you'd have to choose either you go with the Ottomans and the Timurids, or you go with Muscovy Poland. I think I think he's gonna have to choose. Otherwise, I mean, he could stay where he is now. I think he could do a pretty good job just staying the same size he is now. But he'd always kind of be sort of a backseat band guy, you know.
Yep.
But he has done a really, being the first time on the server, he's done an amazing job. Just kind of sneaking in, getting some good diplo to get some decent land, and
And
doing a pretty good job of it.
finally, we'll pivot to some of your brethren. We got a few pirates. They've raised the black flag in Tidor and Madjas. Brunei, obviously a member of the Beach Boys, but has not gone pirate. Um, any thoughts on the naval power potential coming out of Southeast Asia as Portugal approaches from a colonial perspective?
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, so Ayutthaya doing the best they can. What I think ought to happen here is Ayutthaya focuses on production. So they produce as much as they can, and they ship it out to from Siam to Malacca, which is kind of what they're doing. And if possible, if they can get a good enough control over Bengal, you ship to Bengal, and you give. I think Brunei is in best position to form Malaysia, so you give Brunei Malaysia tag and give him the land in Bengal, and then Ayutthaya produces the stuff, and then Brunei trades the stuff. And meanwhile, you have Madjas providing your protection and keeping the Europeans at bay from afar, and Tidor just kind of expands and provides support where needed. Which I want to say that first off, Ayutthaya has done a great job moving as far as they have into Bengal, relatively uncontested. Tidor has done just an amazing job expanding, and Madjas has done about as well as I expected from Helsin. I'm kind of sad because he hasn't colonized Ifugao yet, which is when I was in the Philippines. That's where I was, right there. But I think it's been an interesting to see a naval Magyas that hasn't really gone too explorer heavy. Um, I get the feeling that he is expecting or was expecting Europeans to be there sooner and to have stronger navies. I think he was expecting a Great Britain by this point, to be honest. Um,
He
so
has gone
he's gonna
explore
come a
naval,
knocking.
which is an extremely
Yeah.
potent combo. So he has that global engagement width increase. His colonies are starting to butt heads with the Portuguese colonies, so it will be interesting to see. Do you think, obviously, you're allied with Iberia? Portugal is coming for the Spice Islands, the Malacca area. It's extremely valuable. Are we going to see the Munster Navy pirate on pirate action?
We might. I've had to take a lot of so like right now I have economic as my second, and I had originally hoped to go exploration as my second idea. So I'm not sure how, and especially with all these wars I've been fighting, and probably wars that are going to continue to fight. I don't know how much more we're going to be able to. I'm going to be able to navy out that far that'll actually pose a threat to Helsin um, at the moment, because his, I mean, my just ideas are just they're good, especially with naval to back them up. Um, that said, I don't know that it would be smart for Portugal. I don't know his plans entirely, but if his plan is to go for Kilwa, who doesn't have really any allies, which should change, Kilwa, if you're listening, go ally Bahmanis or Timurids or something. Like, you need an ally other than Oman. Um, if I was Portugal, I would be looking at Kilwa and Betsimisraka and Mafale and being like, well, okay, hold on. Do I really need to go to the Spice Islands, or is this far enough? Is this ivory? Is this gold? Is this good enough? I'm busy in the New World. Um,
Yeah, there's tremendous value in
yeah, and
this
he might
area.
not even go for Kilwa. He might just be going to do a circumnavigation or just to see what's out here. I don't know. Actually, I don't know what he's doing, but if possible, I might try to get him to sell me a lot of these islands, and I'll come raid Helsin. I'll say hi like that. We can raid each other, and it'll be great.
Yeah, you would be able to raid India, Coromandel, technically, from this island. One, two, three, right there.
Oh yeah, he's taking Diego Garcia,
Yep.
so it does look like he is going for the Spice Islands. Yeah. In which case, yeah, I do see butting heads. It'd be very easy for the pirates to come and take his islands, um, unless they have a deal. They could have a deal where Portugal is like, hey guys, don't fight me, I don't fight you. You can come raid all of Europe, and we'll be friends. I don't know.
And as we look towards Saturday, what region are you most interested in watching, or where do you think the action is going to be focused?
So where do I think the action is going to be focused? I think it's going to be focused around the Mediterranean, which is a little different. It's been around the channel so far, but I think it's going to shift down towards the Mediterranean. And where I'm going to be most interested in watching is Muscovy. I want to see what Muscovy does, because um, Muscovite and Austrian Diplo. We didn't really talk about Austria's situation, but I think Austria and the Ottomans are like the cornerstones currently of diplomacy in the Europe area, because depending on what they do this upcoming session, um, like they could say F it and ally each other. They could, Austria could say, I'm going to convince all these princes that are staying to join with me. France has been losing all these wars. England's been losing all these wars. Join me, guys. I haven't lost a single war yet. I haven't been damaged really. And it's going to be interesting to see people's response to Muscovy going into Sweden. Um, we'll see. Like Brandenburg, he might have to go full in, begging Muscovy to take him. Like, hey, protect me or something like that. Um, and then yeah, that's really the big thing. I don't see much more that I would expect to go off. Um, Southeast Asian pirates have done an amazing job, but the job that they're doing right now is more or less. I don't think it's going to change within the next session. You and Manchu have done a good job, but I don't think that's going to much change. You still have all of China to eat. Bakhmanis is just going to keep eating all of India. Nothing different there. Timurids are going to go against the Mamluks, but their primary focus is Mughals, which I think they're just a tech away from getting.
They are. It actually isn't tech dependent. It just requires the core on Delhi.
Which they're doing.
Yeah. November
Okay.
1513.
Okay. So yeah, I think it will be a little interesting to see what Timmy does. He might be going after Bakhmanis. He might be sticking with the Ottomans. Because if the Ottomans decide, hey, thanks for the help, Timmy, but my old friend Muscovy's calling, that kind of puts Timurids in an awkward situation where they have to try to re-ally. Oh, they're still allied with is that allowed? They're allied with both the.
Ottomans don't
Oh, they're
actually
not
have an
officially allied
alliance.
yet. Okay,
Yeah.
they're not officially allied with Ottomans yet. My
Yeah.
bad. Okay, but that might just be two separate wars there. That's interesting. Okay, in that case, Ottomans I expect to re-ally Muscovy then. In which case, that's probably gonna be your guys' border there. I think is actually going to be the most interesting place to kind of watch. How many forts pop up in one session, right? How many forts can three countries build in one session? Something like that.
Well, Zale, appreciate you joining us, and look forward to speaking with you again next week after the session.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man. It's always fun.